Good morning. It is winter. I hate it. It's the most terrible time of year in my opinion. And the only thing that we can do on a day like this is bake something. It's like 10 degrees outside. It never gets like that here. It's the worst ever. But today we are going to try to cheer up by baking these sourdough discard cinnamon sugar muffins. And they're based on a muffin that I used to make a lot as a child that I like to make that were sort of like donuts where you bake them, you dip them in butter, and then you dip them in cinnamon sugar. And we're just adding sourdough discard to this recipe for a little bit of a twist. This is a super simple recipe. If you have a sourdough discard that you want to use that, but you don't have like anything else in the house, like blueberries or oranges or some of the things those other fun recipes require, this is perfect because all you need are super basic pantry ingredients, but you're gonna have something really delicious in the end. So I'm starting here with 2/3 of a cup of butter. You can also do shortening, but you don't want to do vegetable oil because you want these muffins to be sort of sturdy enough to handle the dipping process, which I'll show you in a sec. So we're just going to beat this until it's really creamy. Now, obviously that's not enough. I've noticed sometimes lately, I don't know if it's me or the temperature of my house or my butter, but things are not like getting really fluffy and creamy the way they used to. And what I've been doing is adding the eggs into the mixture and then doing that like really long beating process of 3 minutes or so with the eggs in it, and that's been helping. I still think it's better if you can do just the butter and sugar, but sometimes it's just not working for me and I don't know why, and this has been helpful. Okay. So what you're looking for when you do that process is just for everything to lighten in color. My eggs have a really orange yolk. If yours don't, yours will end up looking even lighter than this, almost white. But when you see that color change, you know that a lot of air is in this mixture and you're gonna have a nice light and fluffy muffin. Now, technically, we should do all the dry ingredients in a separate bowl and mix them in. And my recipe says to do that, and yeah, that's what you should do. But I am going to do this the easy way, just kind of mix them on top. You'll see. It's one less bowl to wash. I always feel like the hardest part of something is not like having a lot of ingredients. That's fine. I can open up another ingredient and measure it out. But when you give me a lot of things to wash, that is when I am not happy. So I'm always trying to minimize that. So this is 2 1/4 cups of flour. We did 2/3 of a cup of butter or shortening, cup of sugar, 2 eggs, and now this is 2 1/4 cups of flour. And then we're gonna do a tablespoon of, well, we're gonna do first a teaspoon of salt, a tablespoon of baking powder, which is just 3 teaspoons, since I have my teaspoon out. 1, 2, 3. And then we're gonna do a little bit of cloves and allspice right in the batter. The only reason I do this is so that when they bake, it smells really good and you can smell the spices. I'm just gonna do 1/2 teaspoon of cloves, probably about 1/4 teaspoon of allspice, a little more or a little less, as you can see, it's no big deal. So I have all these dry ingredients kind of like sitting on top, and then I'm just gonna take this, mix it up a little. And then really the idea when you're doing a cake is you're adding some of the dry ingredients in and alternating with the liquids, which is still something we can kind of accomplish here using this method. I'm just gonna quickly mix these in. And like obviously that's not mixed in. So I'm gonna do, this is 1/2 cup of milk total, but I'm gonna do just some of it. And then I'm gonna put some of my sourdough starter in. Give this a quick stir. We're gonna do 3/4 of a cup of just discarded sourdough starter. This is straight from the fridge. I tend to use mine almost all the way down to the very bottom of the jar, and then I will feed it and put it back in. So I have 3/4 of a cup of starter. I'm gonna put a little bit of that in. I'm gonna mix. I'm sure my grandmother would be furious, but so many fewer dishes. And now I'm gonna mix this and then just use a spatula to kind of give it a good stir. Okay, so you can tell this is a really thick batter. Most muffin batters that I use are very thick. In my opinion, that's always a good sign when you're baking that you have a thick batter. And besides, since we're gonna be like dipping this in butter and cinnamon sugar, like I said, it needs to be sturdy. Okay. So I know I have some ingredients that aren't quite incorporated, so we just want to get a spatula, really mix those in, get the bottom. This recipe would probably be good in a stand mixer because of the butter and sugar. Just makes things easier. You can just set a timer for 3 minutes while the butter and sugar cream and then walk away. But this is fine for now. Okay, so now I'm gonna scoop the batter into the muffin tin. We don't wanna use muffin liners because we wanna coat these after they bake. So we want all of the surface exposed. But that means that we need to really, really generously grease our pan because we have to be able to pop them out without the liner. I'm gonna like really spray this, like you'll be like, oh my gosh, you're way over spraying it, but truly you need it, even on this top layer, because as they rise, if they touch this, if that's not sprayed, they will stick. Okay. My favorite way to scoop muffins is to use a cookie scoop, and I don't ever use it for cookies. I use it for muffins and I use it for meatballs. It just makes sure that everything is relatively the same size so that they bake evenly. And since this is so thick, it's really hard to pour. So the really only alternative is to get a 1/4 cup measuring cup, scoop it out, and then kind of use your fingers to get the dough out, which I would rather not do. When you're buying a cookie scoop, always look for one like this where it has a gear instead of a spring. Just a little tip, it will last, this one will last forever. The gear ones will eventually break, especially when you're using it for something thick, like an actual cookie dough. If it really sticks, you can just kind of move this back and forth. So we had 10 inches, I don't really think it was 10 inches. We were supposed to have 10 inches of snow. We ended up getting like 7 or 8. And in our area, it snows probably once a year, maybe once every other year. But then what typically happens is the snow goes away because we are in Virginia. It gets cold for sure, especially at night, but we very rarely have days where it just doesn't get above freezing the whole day. And that is happening now. And I cannot deal. I don't know what to do. I can't walk across my driveway. It's really slippery. I mean, I can, but everything just feels so hard. Going down to the mailbox would be just borderline impossible for me. My kids are still out of school, thank goodness, because I would not be able to drive them. I truly hate it. The chickens' water is, I don't understand how people live in a place like this where winter is like a true winter. I don't understand how anyone does it. I have to go out with pitchers of water constantly throughout the day, refilling the chickens' water, refilling the bird bath. They won't leave the coop because they don't want to touch the snow. It's just awful. I hate it. So all of you who deal with a real winter have my respect. I couldn't do it. And I think that you guys don't realize what you're missing, and you should probably move to Virginia or somewhere a little bit warmer where it gets above freezing, and at least that snow and ice isn't an all the time thing, right? If it snows, it goes away. Okay, so you can tell that this is really full, and that's why I said what I did about the muffins rising and touching the top, because they totally will do that. And if you're using active, so that my starter was discard with no bubbles that had been in the fridge not quite a week, but almost a week. If it was active, what you would want to do is use 2 muffin tins so that you could fill these not as full as I'm filling them, more halfway, 2/3 of the way full, because an active starter will have them rise even more, which is really nice. They're really fluffy and nice that way, but they'll overflow and they'll make a mess. Okay, cool. So I'm gonna put these in the oven, and then when they're done, we are gonna do the fun part. So these baked at 350 for around 20 minutes. They are big, so they take a little bit longer than some muffins. And you can tell, I'm gonna take these out. They're just very plain. If it's hard to get them out, if they're falling apart a little, let them cool in the pan just for about 5 to 10 minutes. And then they should slide right out here. And then we're gonna go ahead and prepare the cinnamon sugar. So this has 2 different containers. One is just gonna be plain butter and the other is gonna be a mix of cinnamon sugar. Don't mix them all together. It's easy to do that. You're like, oh, cinnamon sugar butter, let me just blend it all together. It's not gonna work, don't do it. So I'm just gonna melt butter in the microwave and then I'll mix the cinnamon sugar in a separate bowl. So you really want all the butter totally melted. I'm gonna give this a couple more seconds. And then what I'm gonna do is 1.5 cups of sugar and a tablespoon of cinnamon. Here's my cinnamon. You want to kind of set something up where you can put these on a cooling rack once they're dipped, just to kind of let them dry. And this is just white granulated sugar. Don't use like a coarse sugar, it won't stick as well, and it's expensive. This is fine. So I'm gonna use tongs, just plain tongs. Cinnamon, I shouldn't have put the cinnamon at the bottom, but oh well. Just a quick stir here. And so you can tell there's a little bit of spice in these, but they have a really good like firm texture. You're not gonna have to worry about them falling apart. So plenty of butter. So don't do a plate because you really want this to be able to like roll in here and get totally coated. And these just remind me so much of getting donuts, like apple cider donuts in particular at a farm stand, where they're just coated in cinnamon sugar. It's so good. These also are really good as mini muffins. Obviously your baking time is going to be a whole lot shorter, but that way you get even more cinnamon sugar because there's more surface area. With these bigger muffins, you have a lot of just that plain inside, which is fine. I don't mind that. But the mini muffins, you'll have even more cinnamon sugar flavor. So you just keep on going through here. I know I was talking about not having too many dishes, and I did just add these 2 dishes to your life, but really this is not that hard and it is worth the effort. So what I will do is finish these up. I'm gonna put the full recipe for this in the description of this video, so you can just screenshot it or copy or paste it, whatever you want. But if you want a really handy printable version, I'll leave the link to my blog and you can get that there too. And again, it's just a great way to use your sourdough discard. It's a great like any time of year recipe, no special ingredients required. And if you too are having a horrible, cold, miserable winter day, this is something kind of fun and easy to do. So I hope you enjoy it, and thank you for watching.